Saturday night, I'm inside doing what cool people do, which is being on the computer. Hey, why does it say live? Why does it say, hey, why does it say live? Oh no. Hi. Hello. This is Adam Jacobi, GoIowaAwesome.com, and you are watching the Iowa Sports Review. And this is our legally not allowed to call it sound off post-game show, and we have quite a bit to talk about, celebrate after today's 17-12 victory, stirring over the mighty Northwestern Wildcats. So we'll try to get this show on the road pretty quickly because, again, we have a lot to talk about. First and foremost, Alex Padilla, winning quarterback, game-winning QB. Spencer Petras, benched or maybe injured. Either way, his mechanics were bad. And then he wasn't in the game anymore. So, yeah, a whole lot to talk about. And first and foremost, this is a show for all of you. I'm just the pretty face, and it is quite pretty. So hop on into the YouTube link if you've seen it already. Hop on into the chat. You're going to see that on the right or bottom right, depending on what your setup is. But yeah, hey, this is the first time in almost a month that we get to talk about a victory. And I know that it's a lot more fun to talk about the W's than the L's. So I want to hear what all of you thought of Alex Padilla in his first real showing against what is, on paper, a Big Ten defense. I want to know what you guys thought of Kirk Ferentz's explanation for taking Petras out. Want to know a whole lot of things about how the offense looked, whether you thought it looked great, whether you thought it looked still as troublesome and problematic as ever. I want to hear these things. I want to know. So go ahead and once again, hop on into the comments. And oh yeah, we've got quite a few already. Hello, everybody. Defense gets turnovers and Iowa gets a W. Yeah, Clinton, first of all, welcome back. Great to see you as always. And yeah, sometimes the formula is that simple. And as it turns out, Iowa did need all three of those turnovers by the end of the game in order to sew up the victory because, clearly Kirk Ferentz enjoys winning games with under 20 points on the board. Like, it seems like that's the way he calls these games sometimes. But for you and I, the longer that the game goes on and it's still within striking distance, the more nervous that we're going to be. We've seen a whole lot of football. We know that things can go sideways if you keep letting them go sideways. And Northwestern, say what you will about them, they're very good at just conjuring up some Northwestern mess out of nowhere. And like, you think the game's going great, you black out for about 10 minutes, you look up and oh no, they're driving for the win. How? I can understand everybody's getting a little weary and wary by the end of the game. But fortunately, Marty, I don't even know his first name. He's just going by one name. He's like those Brazilian soccer players or Cher. He's just Marty now. So Marty threw himself his third interception of the game with under 2 minutes to go. That sealed the deal. Northwestern was never really in position to win this game. I mean, yes, they had the ball down 5 with one last drive, and yes, that's closer than you ever want it. But it's not like Iowa had to make that interception on its own 5-yard line. It's not like Iowa spent time trailing. So all in all, it was clearly closer than we wanted. And if you're the betting type, and I can't mention this enough, don't bet. Just don't gamble, especially don't gamble on college sports. But that being said, I do pay attention to the lines. I think it's interesting. It's a data point. So yeah, Northwestern covered. So you don't like to see that, and obviously the under hit on this game easily. I want to know who thought that there was going to be more than 41 points in this game. Show me who this person is, because all you had to do was look at these two teams and be like, yeah, they're not going anywhere. They're not. No. Yeah. Okay. We got to talk about that play calling. So first of all, welcome back, the real Hayden. Again, I'm not sure you actually are the real Hayden Fry, but I'm not going to press the issue. We don't do that after victories. We don't, but yeah, the play calling, it, especially after Padilla made that offense hum and really started to get Keegan Johnson, Arlen Bruce, even Tyler Goodson had himself a nice day, both on the ground and through the air. Can't say enough about how Padilla got the ball in the hands of his playmakers, targeted them repeatedly, and let them make plays as opposed to being, just standing in the pocket for 10 seconds, deciding that they're not open and just seeing who's going to sack him first. Not that I'm referring to any specific quarterback at that point. After those scoring drives happened, we saw that exact same ultra-conservative Kirk Ferentz come back out, rushing on 3rd and 5, playing for the punt, really, which after the last 2 games, you would think that they sort of know better than that. It's one thing to say punting is winning, but no, outscoring your opponent is winning. That's the last I checked. That's all I know. And you can try as much as you want to run out the clock or to put an inferior opponent in a situation that they don't want to be in, to have to try to hurry up against this defense. But ultimately, any inferior team would rather be close and have to, make one drive with 2 minutes left. They would much rather have that than to be down by 20 with an entire quarter left. Because, as long as who's knocking my microphone around? What kind of place is this? As long as the underdog is still within striking distance, as long as they've got a shot, something weird can always happen. Especially in Evanston, Illinois, something weird can always happen. So, boy, that second half, I think the longer that you're a Hawkeye fan, the longer that you've been watching this Kirk Ferentz offense, the more it felt like, oh, here we go again. Like, this doesn't have to be this way. But it was a victory. It was Iowa is 7-2. They, at the very least, they're not going to fall out of the top 25. We like to see that. And yeah, so it's easy to complain. And it's especially easy to complain about Iowa's offense. I'm not going to say any of that's invalid. It's not. But, at the end of the day, a win is a win. And, just look around college football, and those things are, by no means a guarantee. So I was happy to see Iowa, play like they belonged in control of the game. I was not happy with the rushing offense in the second half. You know, the more you don't run behind Linderbaum, the more decide to go behind any of the other four offensive linemen, or Sam Laporta he's getting there as a blocker. He's not there yet. The more you're sort of taking your team away from being in position to succeed. And yeah, it's frustrating. And part of that is also a little bit of the hurt from, you know, 2 straight weeks of really bad offense and 14 points scored total. So, I think that necessarily had to color it a bit from Iowa's fans' perspectives. But yeah, I do wonder, what's it going to take for Iowa to decide that they want to score? Hide the kids, but what if Iowa decides they want to score over 30 points in one football game? I know. It's crazy talk. I know. But wouldn't it be nice? Just a little bit. Joe, welcome back. JT, my man. Yeah, Brian Ferentz had a good second quarter. I thought the offense looked great. And to the extent that when Ferentz said that, it's still the same offense, everyone that was in the Discord with me and everybody else, I was like, is it the same offense? Is it really? Because throws were going where Petrus wasn't throwing them. And whenever you see a quarterback have certain tendencies, have certain places he is going to throw, is not going to throw, you have to assume that that is part of the offensive game plan. Otherwise, he's going to get benched. And, if Petrus weren't hurt, he got dinged up at the end of the Wisconsin game. If that doesn't happen, I'm not sure that there was a whole lot from those first 3 series that was really going to tell Ferentz that this isn't working. I still think Petrus is going to start next week. I don't think I want that, but I still think it's going to happen because we've seen enough of Kirk Ferentz, and he is loyal to a fault to his quarterbacks. I'm old enough to remember how much wrangling it took to get Stanzi in there in front of Christensen. Like the season had to really be on the brink for that. It was the same situation with Rudock and Beathard. It took an entire underwhelming year of Rudock for fans to be like, this is really starting to reflect poorly on the program. And Petrus, man, I want good things for him. I really do. But maybe it's just that he's a bad fit behind a bad offensive line in a way that Padilla is not. And kudos to our viewers who had picked up on that. And I had spent weeks saying, no, there's no reason to believe that Padilla is going to do better. If that were the case, we would have seen more of him by now. And, even in cleanup duty, Padilla had not been great coming into this week, but boy, he was exactly what they needed, especially in the first half. Okay, now we do have to point out, as Hayden is mentioning here, Northwestern's defense is bad. It's the worst in the Big Ten, and it's not. And I mean, Nebraska hung 50 on these guys, 50 and change, as I recall. And I know that Adrian Martinez is good, but as Hayden points out here, 17 against Northwestern is not an accomplishment. And yes, I get that. At points they were actively playing for the punt. They were not, throwing on third down. The last punt was a 23-yarder that came from inside Northwestern's 40. So if the game were tied or if Iowa were losing, obviously that punt doesn't go back up. So I get it. But, it's one thing to pin your opponent deep. It's another thing to pin them down double digits, right? Like, field position you can get back. All it takes is one run from that little punk Hull. I don't even know what his first name is. That was frustrating. I'm glad that Northwestern didn't figure out until the fourth quarter that he can just run around all of his tacklers. But yeah, at some point, the best thing that a team can do to win a game is just put points on the board. And I know that is unnecessarily reductive, and there isn't a coach out there that doesn't know that. But it does call into question a lot of the decision-making that happens on Iowa's sidelines. And it's the same questions we've had all year. It's the same questions we've had for the last 10 years. We all know these questions by now. And, it's one thing to say, why isn't player X performing better? Where's his productivity? It's another to ask, how do you score 17 against this Northwestern team? And it's not like, we spent the entire day saying, oh, wow, I don't know how Nebraska scored 50 on these guys, right? It's not like Northwestern's defense was playing the game of its life, hitting hard. It wasn't like that. It just seemed like Iowa did not want to take advantage of opportunities, or at the very least, the way that it wanted to take advantage of opportunities was just running outside zone, which they don't have the personnel for. And I realize that, telling Iowa you can't run offensive zone is sort of like, or telling them they can't run outside zone is sort of like telling Mariah Carey, like, no high notes now. Yeah. But there has to be some way that they can just put an opponent down 24 points, park the bus, and say, okay, right. But I don't see that with this team, not this year. And to decide that, we're up 17-3 or we're up 17-6, that'll be good enough. I like this defense, but as long as they keep playing a shell defense, essentially, as long as Phil Parker keeps it vanilla, there's going to be ways for opponents to move the ball, not necessarily get in the end zone. Northwestern didn't do that until very late, and that was only because, again, that one guy decided he was Darren Sproles. But, it's one thing if that happens in a 35-6 game. It's another if it happens in 17-6. Like, all of a sudden, all that math starts to change again. And God bless Kirk. I love him. I wish I had that level of confidence. Like, that I could be that chill about this whole thing that an 11-point lead can make me go like, yeah, we got this. Like, give me that stress-free life. I want that. What is your secret? What's your secret? Purdue got the win. Okay. Yeah, we absolutely have to talk about Purdue knocking off Michigan State, because one, I don't think it was as pronounced as Iowa, but I didn't feel much better about MSU at number 3 than I did about Iowa at number 2. And just, one comeback win against Michigan, great. Just like Iowa had the one against Penn State, great. I don't think that you could look at their season thus far. And granted, you want to reward good seasons. You don't just want to be like, Alabama could beat them. Who cares? But Alabama could beat them. Georgia could beat them. And beat them rough too. In fact, just don't ask Sparty fans about seeing Alabama in the postseason. Just don't. That everything makes them mad to begin with. Alabama would really make them mad. But no, like, we knew in our heart of hearts that even though MSU was unbeaten, and that an unbeaten team at this point in the season, yeah, go ahead, have your top 5, have it, go for it. But we knew that was not a championship team. We knew that. We knew that the bottom could fall out. We knew that there was probably still a loss or 2 or 3 lurking for those guys, and it's still going to be pretty bumpy for Sparty after this too. But yeah, just seeing somebody else get Purdue'd by Purdue, yeah, a little bit of relief, to say the least, and especially because it was David Bell doing it all again. So it makes me feel a little less bad about what he did to Iowa's secondary. Okay, so it wasn't just that one day, that 1 week, or it's not just Jeff Brom against Phil Parker, right? Yeah, okay. Like, David Bell really, really is that dude. He is that good. Okay. Whew. And in a way, because Purdue does this. This is Purdue's thing even more than it's Iowa's thing, even more than it's Kirk Ferentz's thing. Purdue, as an unranked team, has 17 victories over top 5 opponents in its history. The next best team has 11. And Purdue has 8 of those wins against top 2 teams. Again, unranked Purdue. And the next best, as I recall, has 4. So again, Purdue just doing Purdue things. And Iowa has been on the correct end of those unranked versus top 5 upsets. We were probably due a little bit. Like, karmically, we're not that great. The scales were going to balance out at some point. Joe says the play calling for Padilla was exciting and new. I think so, but then we got the lead and turtle. Yeah, an entire yeah, buddy. Believe me, I agree, and I don't think I've ever said otherwise on this show. Like, preaching to the preacher here, because I don't think that there's nearly the amount of downside toward keeping up aggressive play calling that the Ferentzes seem to think there is. Because if that were the case, then Alabama would be winning all of its games. Okay, 20-14 is a bad. Okay, bad example. That's the score that they just beat LSU by, and LSU had to throw into the end zone at the end of the game too. But I mean, you know what I mean. As I've said before, there is nothing about having a great defense, which Iowa has. They have a great defense. There's nothing about having that great defense that necessarily precludes you from calling, the type of offensive game plan that, say, Iowa had in the 55-24 game. By the way, Iowa beat Ohio State 55-24. Many people have forgotten that. I haven't. But anyway, and I know that you can't make the whole season out of 55-24, just like you can't make the whole plane out of black box. I get it. But you can certainly just like aspire to it. Wouldn't that be nice? You can try to score 30 points. You can. We just saw Padilla can throw the ball down the field just great. And good things happen with the offense when you do that. Imagine that, like using the entire field. It's what it's there for. So I'm very curious to see what happens next week. Again, I expect Peters to be back because I don't agree with that, but gosh, we know who we're dealing with, and we've even seen a spite start or two out of this guy before. I hope Pidia's back. I hope he's starting again. I like the kid. I think his skill set is exactly what you need behind that offensive line. And I was a little bit worried because I wasn't sure that all those skills had been put together. Because if they had, I think that we would have seen a lot more of him coming into this week. Or that was the place where I was mentally about this. And probably Peters having a bum shoulder just changed the math on that one pretty drastically. But yeah, now that we know what Padilla can do with a full game to play, or close enough, keep riding that. I say keep riding it. I don't expect them to, but it would be nice because it's new and different, and it puts the team in a position to win that they just hadn't been for the last 2 weeks, even when Petrus's shoulder was feeling good. Ethan asks, 7-5 or 8-4 to finish the season. I don't think Iowa drops them all against the likes of, Minnesota, Illinois, and Nebraska. Is that how it's pronounced? Nebraska? Nebraska? That's it. Anyway, no, they're not going to lose them all. No. Don't put that evil into the world. Don't even joke about that. Don't. I think they're going to go 10-2 personally. And they're going to go to Indianapolis and they're going to win that. And they're still just not going to go to the playoffs because, again, 2 losses. Then they're going to take that to the Rose Bowl and it'll be fun. And they won't have to play Christian McCaffrey again. And that'll be its own type of fun. Hey, like I've said it before, I don't think pessimism gets us anywhere as fans. I think you are being your own thief of joy when you start saying like, oh, they're going to mess us up. Oh, no, it's no, like don't take that away from yourself. It was super fun to have this team in the top 5. They didn't belong there. No. But you should have the fun while you have it. Like while you have the opportunity. Have the fun. Don't worry about 7-5 because it sort of makes you look like a bozo when they don't do that. So yeah, my call is 10-2. I don't think it's realistic, but I also don't think 7-5 is realistic either. So as long as we're just guessing here, I'm gonna guess the thing that doesn't make me want to throw things at my television. It's all a choice. And yeah, Clinton, that win. First of all, it takes Minnesota out of the driver's seat in the Big Ten West, which they don't even like cars up there. It's all boat rowing. They're in the coxswain's seat. That's a crew. That's a rowing reference. Anybody? Anyone? Bueller? No, Minnesota representing the Big Ten West in Indianapolis would not end well for anybody except for Ohio State. I assume it's going to be Ohio State. That would be borderline snuff film type of stuff. Don't. So thank you to Illinois. Can you guys? Okay, chat. I've got a question for you. What do you guys think about Brett Bielema at Illinois? He's got some wins. He beat Nebraska, although anyone can do that, but he sort of set the stage for their season of unending futility. Beat Penn State in State College at Happy Valley. 9 overtimes. Did that. Lost to Rutgers. and now beat Minnesota. Beat them 14-6. Had them shut out until late in the game. That is substantial. I still don't know how I feel about Illinois. I don't know how I feel about Iowa playing Illinois, because that could get weird in a hurry too. Yeah, I don't know. So, chat, how you guys feeling about that Illinois game? Give me your chats. Give. We're gonna. Ethan says we're really gonna come to regret it. Yeah, man. I can totally see that. I can absolutely see that, because at the very least, and I think I've said this before, but even if I haven't, maybe you weren't watching. Anyway, Bielema gets how to win in the Big Ten and in the Big Ten West in a fundamental way that I don't think every coach gets when they show up. Nobody at Nebraska has known that except for maybe Bo Pelini. Illinois is littered with coaches that didn't figure out, or littered with ex-coaches who didn't figure out that it's the offensive line, the offensive line, the offensive line, the offensive line. You don't have that in the Big Ten West, and you're struggling. Look at Iowa. All right, look at how good we thought Petras was last year compared to how we think he looks this year. Did he get worse at quarterbacking? No. But he is in a situation where somebody of his skill set is having to look at a free defender rushing at him basically every time he drops back to pass. Padilla, at a minimum, can escape that pressure more easily than Petras can. No one's going to argue that. And we saw more out of Padilla in terms of playmaking after he's been flushed from the pocket. We saw a whole lot more of that than we had seen from Petras all year. So, I mean, if I'm Petras or his family or whatever, I would be a little bummed out. I would think this is a bit of a raw deal, but it not. I should be clear. Not that the coaches are not putting Petras in a position to succeed. I don't think that's the case. I think the circumstances, which, it's debatable whether or not those are under the coach's control, but the circumstances being bad offensive line, young receivers, and a quarterback being 6'5", 240, and not really, we'll say not really of the Cam Newton level of using 6'5", 240 in an athletic way. There are things Petras is good at and better than Padilla at. Playing behind this offensive line, I don't think that's one of them. And, it do be like that sometimes. It is. So I hope everyone keeps their heads up in that QB room. I hope this doesn't turn into something that's going to make somebody, hop into the transfer portal. I don't think that's going to benefit both sides. Yeah, Bert's a really good coach. Probably have a fake punt lined up to beat us. I still remember that fake punt from was it 2010? I think it was 2010. And that sort of kickstarted the Wisconsin always beats Iowa. They're 8-2 in their last 10. It was a great game. It was a tremendous game. But I was in the press box for that game, and you could just see on that fake punt that Iowa's punt coverage team, despite the scored situation, all of that, nobody was trying to account for the fake. Just didn't happen. And there was this, as I recall, and again, I'm an old man, and I'm trying to remember something from 11 years ago. Bear with me. But I remember that as soon as that punter, I think it was Brad Nordman, as soon as he as soon as he took that first step, you could just hear this groan because it was that obvious that it was going to be a first down as soon as he decided to take off with it. So I hope, at a minimum, that Iowa is geared up for some of that shenaniganery. It's not even a word. That's not a word. Intercepting is winning. Yeah, thank you. I will take interceptions over punts. We'll put it that way. If you really want to play field position, the best thing to do is just take the ball away straight away instead of having somebody, kick it to you 50 yards. But yeah, I'm wearing this because Iowa does punt a lot, but I'm struggling with the notion that punting is winning. that has started to get away from me. Ethan asks, Iowa running power up the middle. Yes. Much more effective than zone stretch to the outside. Yes. Why was it that we abandoned the former for the latter? You're asking me to climb in between Kirk Ferentz's two ears. One, that's gross. Two, it's medically unnecessary. Three, I'm not a good mind reader. I'm not. But I think that when you're in charge, and I'm not a good mind reader, but I have a theory. And I think that when you're in charge of something for that long and you've experienced as much success as Kirk Ferentz has, and listen, beyond Iowa's wildest dreams of success when he got hired, even with no championship, even with no, BCS or college football playoff berth. The fact that Iowa has gotten over 2 decades and multiple, Big Four, New Year's Six, whatever you want to call them, like multiple, like really, really, really big bowl wins, several seasons finishing in the top 10, like that. For a school that recruits like Iowa does, it probably shouldn't happen. So, like, his level of success is unimpeachable. And you could really make the case that he's had a better career at Iowa than Hayden Fry did. So, but I think that track record of success, which is substantial, I think that once you get used to knowing that you can call a game and win that game pretty regularly, more often than not, sometimes much more often than not, you start to have an idea of what success looks like and what success doesn't look like. And when it's something that you didn't plan or prepare for or decide was going to be your bread and butter, when it's not that, when something else gets you across that line, gives you that bump, that oomph, if it was, especially if it was somebody that, I don't know, you didn't start that day, it can, I think it can throw somebody off. And also, some of it is just what you prepare for and what you didn't prepare for. I would say Iowa probably spends a lot more time trying to perfect the outside zone than it does just running power smash A gap type defense. That would be my read of the situation. And so from a coach's perspective, yeah, you want to call the play that that you've practiced more than the play that you probably haven't practiced as much. The problem is, personnel-wise, like I said, Iowa does not have the personnel to run what an outside zone game should be. Their tackles aren't there yet. They also have a worthy All-American center I think you can just go ahead and put his name on the Remington right now, unless he robs a bank. At some point, you just run behind your hosses. And there's no better hoss than Tyler Linderbaum. And if there is, it's Monty Pottebaum. Bomb squad all day, right? But but since it's not part of what the script often is, yeah, I think it's understandable that Kirk Ferentz or Brian Ferentz or whoever you want to, put this at the feet at, or at the feet of, it's understandable that they could say, okay, yeah, that worked for us that 1 week, but it's not what we want to do. Yeah, like we don't like doing what works best for the players we have. I mean, I because it's not. I think it's just not what they prepared for, and things are falling over in my studio. Yeah, it's sort of an on the fly adjustment that they have to make, and some coaches are better than that than others. And say what you will about Kirk Ferentz, I don't think he's that on the fly kind of guy. And he barely was that his first 5 years in the Big Ten, and certainly not the 17 since then. Just doing the math in my head, I'm not probably not accurate, but you see what I'm saying. Like, I think he goes back to his old well quite a bit because he's got the wins to show for it. I just don't think that's a good move in this season. But then again, I think that all coaches should have been fired at least 5 times this season alone, if not every season. So don't ask me about anything. Fire Phil Parker. Why'd they score a touchdown? Everything's bad. All right, a little bit of a reset for everybody. If you're just hopping on in here, it is about 11:15 already. So, thank you for staying up late with me. I'm here with my sparkly water, made from real polar bears. True story. Or maybe it's not made from the polar bears. Maybe it's the polar bears making it. Is that illegal? I don't know if it's legal. Anyway. I've already run the train off the tracks on my own reset. Who's running this place? Anyway, it is about 11 p.m. You are watching the Iowa Sports Review. I am Adam Jacobi, editor-at-large of GoIowaAwesome.com, and we are celebrating Iowa's 17-12 victory over hapless Northwestern. We're celebrating. We're definitely celebrating a big day for Alex Padilla coming in relief of Spencer Petras, who looks. I mean, mechanically, Petras was not there today. Ross WB was in Evanston and filed some eyewitness reports. But he said that even when Petras was warming up in the sidelines between possessions, that mechanically he wasn't there. So it looks like whatever got him tweaked at the end of the game against Wisconsin, looks like that's still bothering him, or at the very least, I don't know how much longer it is going to bother him. I don't think that we've heard a whole lot medically about him. And it was also weird because at the end of the day, Padilla, when he got interviewed after the game, and I know that players like to keep some things close to the vest. He said that, and I'm going to try to get the wording as close as possible. He said that there was not a whole lot of communication from the coaches about coming into this specific game, like in the week leading up to it, but that his job is already to be ready to start every week. So that's what he did, which is great. And I don't know what what that communication was. I I don't know what they tell backup quarterbacks. I really don't. So I don't want to read too much into what he said because, again, backup quarterback, you got to be ready to play no matter what. Even if Penn State's wasn't when Clifford got injured. Just saying. So I don't know how much of a surprise that was for Padilla. I don't know. I'm glad he made the most of it. I'm glad, that game could have really been bad if Petrus decided to make 60 minutes out of it. So I'm happy that Iowa had a backup quarterback that, yes, it was Evanston, Illinois. Yes, it was Northwestern's lousy defense, but Iowa still had a quarterback that could go out there, sling the rock, make Keegan Johnson and Arlen Bruce look good. Also remembered that they have Tyrone Tracy. You remember him? I do. Tracy's really good. He's very athletic. And, I don't know if it's a Spencer Petras thing or a Kirk Ferentz thing. I don't know whose idea it is, but it really seemed like Petras was only throwing to Laporta and Reganey by the last 2 weeks or so. Or at the very least, just throwing to them like 80-90% of the time. And that's, honestly, it's not fair to Iowa's receivers. It's not fair to the other guys that are on the field. So I'm really glad to see that Padilla not only was able to put up numbers, but was able to do it by putting the ball in the hands of playmakers. Iowa had really, really struggled with that, especially the last 2 weeks. So that is a benefit. Does editor at large mean you're missing? No, it means I'm 6'2". Little known fact, you can't be an editor at large and under 6 feet tall. Facts. Anyway, just to finish up the reset that I started 4 minutes ago, while you're here, while you're on our YouTube channel, if you haven't followed that link already to watch us there, go ahead and do that on YouTube. And while you're there in the chat, type in your chitty chats. Go ahead and hit that like button for us, and go ahead and hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Not only does it make us feel good about ourselves and the work that we do, but it tells YouTube that you're enjoying the show as well. You can even lie a little bit, even if you're not enjoying it. Just a little fib, just hit the button on a little fib, just a little prank, just pranking YouTube. But it tells YouTube that you want this community to grow. And the bigger this community gets, the more we've got fun chats happening in that chat area as we speak. So yeah, no downside really. It certainly doesn't cost you anything yet. So go ahead and hit the like and subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you'll know as soon as we go live. And we do this about 3 times a week. Yeah, the more happy fans, the more we can grow this as a family, the Iowa Sports Review family. And we really do run it like a family, which means that we all secretly hate each other. No, that's not true. That's not true. It's not true. Not true. But anyway, yeah, the more likes, more subscribes we get, the better this channel does. And it ends up serving as a testament to all of you more than it serves as a testament to me. Again, I'm just here to be a pretty face. I'm just here to ramble semi-coherently for about an hour and a half straight, and hopefully make you all feel happy enough to hit the right buttons. We like it when you hit the buttons. We like it very much. Yeah, the real Hayden says, really impressed with Arlen Bruce's hands. Took that big shot, still held on. Yeah, man, like physically, Bruce checks all the boxes, and so does Keegan Johnson. Like those two guys are exciting as wide receivers. I don't want to put them quite on the pedestal of DJK and Marvin McNutt as a duo. They're still not. Excuse me. I'm like, you want to see some prolonged success, some real like week to week, month to month production out of them. And they're not there yet, but again, they're kids. They're freshmen. I think they're true freshmen. boy, it's going to be bad if I'm wrong about that. But anyway, still freshman, still a long way to go, but I really like what happens when the ball gets in their hands. Now, having said that, I have seen Johnson and Bruce sometimes struggle with the playbook and their assignments, which again, freshmen, it's gonna happen. So I understand why they're not on the field all the time, especially with the ways that Iowa asks certain things of their receivers, like in the run game. I get it. I get it. But if they're going to be on the field, if they're going to know how to, uh, if they know the play well enough to be on the field, then you might as well make the most out of their athleticism. And I think Padilla does a really good job of that. Again, we're only looking at one game's worth of um, production here. It's a data point of one, but that's better than a data point of none. And I like what I've seen so far. Um, those guys, they've got some dog in them, don't they? they, it's like you said. Bruce took a hit. Keegan can go up and get the ball. I mean, that high point catch was really special. That was a type of play that most Iowa receivers don't have. And we really got spoiled by the catching ability of Smith Marset and Brandon Smith. Those guys also had tremendous ball skills. I think I'd rather have Keegan Johnson. Or I should say, by the end of his career, as long as he stays healthy, as long as he stays in Iowa City, as long as the grades stay good, and I think everybody's grades just automatically stay good now. I can't remember the last time someone was academically ineligible. I'm sure that's fine, but I think the skills that we already see out of Keegan Johnson, oh boy, that guy can ball. That guy can ball. And Bruce, I thought, took a huge step forward today. That was really great to see too. That again, that touchdown that he scored, you can probably count on one hand, if not zero hands, the amount of receivers that Kirk Ferentz has had that would have been able to score on that play prior to Arlen Bruce. That is, man, hats off to him. Did I ever score a TD in high school football? No, I played nose tackle. We don't score touchdowns unless something has gone seriously, dreadfully wrong. No. Does it matter? I hope it doesn't matter. I don't know. I'll say this. I played at both the high school and the college level, but these were not high performing places where I played. Clearly, if they would have me on the roster, was not great football to begin with. But I played with a whole lot of absolute bozos who had more touchdowns than me. All right. So, gosh, if scoring touchdowns was all it takes to know how to talk about football, then I don't know, O.J. Simpson probably wouldn't have, felt stabby. Like he just would have had a career in the booth. That's a weird. Why would I pull that example out? Who asked me that? Favorite Hawkeye I have seen play in person of all time. Boy, Tavian Banks and Tim Dwight. They're way high up on that list for me too. I am of the certain age, as you can see, that I got to watch them and Cedric Shaw playing while I was growing up in my most deeply formative years. And we're talking about Heisman candidates there, and they were super fun to watch, especially in a Hayden Fry type of offense. Hayden knew a thing or two about getting the ball in the hands of his playmakers. I'll give him that. So aside from Banks, aside from Dwight, and I loved Cedric Shaw too. Who else would qualify? It's got to be someone from the defense, right? I'll say this, and it's not like he was making, you know, highlight reel plays every. No, you know what? Here's who was making highlight reel plays every week. I was about to say something nice about Chad Greenway. No, the answer is Bob Sanders. Bob Sanders, the effect that he had on a game, being able to see that in person, oh my sweet goodness. That man hit so hard. TV does not do it justice. But when you can hear the crack of the pads when he would lower the boom on somebody from not only like in the stadium, but to hear it on the other sideline from where you're sitting, like Bob Sanders was different. Like there have been great football players and great defenders, great safeties. Iowa's had plenty of them. Bob Sanders was a one of one. That man hit like aliens. Like if you show an alien football, it's like, oh, I just run somebody over, and then because they don't know sports, like they try to like hurt somebody. Again, I don't know why aliens came up into this, but he hit like his life depended on it. and oh man, miss you, Bob. Banks should have been starting above shot. I don't know, but this is a hot take. This is a super hot take. Also, man, Joe, that's super sad about Chad, and not the only former Hawkeye that I've heard that about. That stinks. But anyway, all right, chat. I'm asking you again. Are you more of a Tavian Banks or a Cedric Shaw kind of person? Just say Tater Shaw, or Banks or Shaw. Yeah, just pop that one into the chat. Yeah, because I don't know. I love them both, right? This is sort of a Sophie's choice, except my children here in this case are older than me. So it's not Sophie's choice at all. It's Adam's choice. Man, I really liked watching Cedric play ball. I really liked watching Tavian play ball. It's an impossible choice for me. Yeah, well, of course you're going to say that, Clinton. I'll say this. I don't think there's a wrong answer to that question, but I do feel like it's sort of defines you as a Hawkeye fan. I don't know. I really liked Cedric's swagger. Like Cedric was going to run all over you and then tell you all about it. He was a Texas guy. And Tavian Banks, say what you will, like the most athletic running back I've ever seen in a Hawkeye uniform. That includes Sean Green, Liddell Betts, Nick Bell. It includes Cedric Shaw, includes Tyler Goodson. I will take Tavian Banks' athleticism over all of them. But like his thing, his vibe, with like the bleached blonde, like it was cool too. But I don't know. Like I didn't think Tavian was sort of the like run you over and then make you feel bad about it kind of guy. And I'm not calling him soft by any stretch of the imagination, because Tavian Banks had the most underrated thing about Tavian Banks was this. He had a nose for the end zone that was, again, like unlike pretty much any other Iowa running back I've seen. Cedric Shaw had that too, but for a guy who was so predicated on speed, shiftiness, having that sort of quasi-unorthodox soccer type running style, when, if he had the ball and he was inside, that 2-3 yard line, Tavian just had a way to get in the end zone. And I always appreciated that about him. And I don't think he ever got enough credit for that. But again, I don't want to choose between those two. I don't. Yeah, he didn't like getting hit. I agree. Certainly not in the way that Shaw could take contact. But again, like if it was, between not getting hit or scoring a touchdown, Banks was always going to score that TD. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I listen, I love those guys, both of them. So, yeah, between them and Bob Sanders and Tim Dwight, I mean, what more can you ask for as an Iowa fan, especially growing up? Man, oh man. All right, well, friends, looks like our chat is starting to wind down just a touch. So with that, yeah, let's get into our little shouts out for this end of the day, end of the stream, if you will. So once again, my name is Adam Jacobi. Go IowaAwesome.com. Shouts out to Ross WB, who was there in Evanston. Hopefully we will be able to get him when he's back at home for later games. But it was good to see him there. Shouts out to Jeff McNutt for coming on our show earlier, and make sure that you're checking out his artwork when you get a chance. Shouts out to Chuck Long, the Iowa Sports Foundation, for their support of the show as well. Shouts out to each and every one of you, whether you were chatting or just silently lurking, waiting for what? Nobody knows. Shouts out to the Iowa football team. Shouts out to Alex Padilla. Shouts out to Polar Bear Water. Shouts out to a whole bunch of things. But yes, most of all, again, shouts out to all of you. Thank you for another fun, exciting day of the Iowa Sports Review. With that, my name is Adam Jacobi. One more time. Go Iowa Awesome. Go Hawks. Good night.